If we can know Christians by their fruit, as Matthew 7:20 through 25 says, doesn't that mean that salvation requires works? Hi, I'm Lucas Kitchen with questions from atheist.com. We got this question from an anonymous viewer about recognizing believers by their fruit and salvation requiring works. So let's start by taking a look at the verses that were mentioned. Matthew 7:20 through 25. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So the verses say things like, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. So this verse is usually taught this way. You will know a person is a Christian because they produce good fruit. These verses are quoted to support this claim. However, it's not actually what the verses are saying. The verse is pulled out of context. When it says, by their fruits ye shall know them, who is it talking about? Who shall we know by their fruits? It's in the section right before, in verse 15. It reveals who it's talking about. It says, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, etc., etc. So this whole section is talking about false prophets. It's saying, by their fruits you will know if someone is a false prophet. This is very different in meaning than you will know a believer by his fruit. After all, how could you actually know if someone is a believer? You can't. They can tell you that they are a believer, but they could be lying. There is not really a way to know if someone has believed in Jesus. Only they and God know. You will know a person is a false prophet by looking at their character, or their deeds, or even their prophecies. If a person is a false prophet, there will be evidence in his life or even his teaching. So, in the next section, when it says, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, etc., etc., it's still talking about false prophets. There's no division in the original Greek here. It's one section where he continues to talk about the fate of false prophets. So it is possible to lie about being a believer. It's possible to lie about being a prophet. And this section warns us and gives us some pointers on how to deal with them. Jesus says in the book of John that eternal life comes by believing in Jesus. Now, this may make you wonder about the fruits of the Spirit. Shouldn't all believers display fruit of the Spirit? Well, yes, they should. But do they? Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 3 that there will be people who produce no fruit during their lives, but in fact are only saved as one escaping through the flames. All believers should bear fruit, but some apparently won't. So the dividing line is one between a believer and a disciple. Did you know that being a believer is actually slightly different from being a disciple? The book of John shows us that one can believe in Jesus, but not abide in his word. One can believe in him and have eternal life, but not do the work of a disciple. It's clear that this person who believes doesn't abide, still has eternal life, but they don't bear fruit. If they don't bear fruit, they will miss out on treasure in heaven, as 1 Corinthians 3:15 says. They will not be doing what Jesus told them to do when he said, store up for yourself treasure in heaven, in Matthew 6. So eternal life is free for all who believe. Reward in heaven, however, is reserved for those who do the work of a disciple. Their reward will be greater than the ones who are believers but are lazy. Now, let's take another look at what the false prophets say to Jesus in Matthew 7. They are presenting their case for why they should be allowed to enter into the kingdom. They say, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name? And in thy name cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So these false prophets are citing their good works as evidence that they should be allowed to get into heaven. Note here that Jesus doesn't agree with them. They claim that they cast out demons, prophesied, and did many wonderful works. Jesus disagrees and simply says that they worked iniquity. The short of it is that their works are not sufficient to get them into heaven. Secondly, Jesus implies that they never did those things, cast out demons, prophesy, and do wonderful miracles. Instead, they were lying about the whole thing. I'd like to mention that I've witnessed people who I believe are modern false prophets. It's those who swear they are doing miracles while teaching unbiblical health and wealth heresies. I'm not the judge, but I have in mind a few internationally known preaching swindlers who likely will be in this lineup on the day of judgment. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but are ravenous wolves. These faith healers line their pockets with the cash of the downcast. They sow seeds of opportunism in the hearts of the poor to grow their own personal wealth. They prey on the poverty-stricken. They devour the minds of the wealthless with dreams of grandeur so that they can themselves become grand. Jesus sees it all. And one day, Jesus says, these false prophets will be cast out of the kingdom.